joined by our distinguished chairman as soon as he finished voting. I will begin by talking about how pleased I am with the work that our members did during the break. As I say all the time, we are legislating, we are investigating, and we are litigating. On the legislative front, we had a very great drumbeat across America for H.R. 3, our legislation to bring down the cost of prescription drugs now. Members had town hall meetings, press conferences, and the rest to listen to people's concerns, to share what we intended to do. And now that we're back this week, two committees, Education and Labor, under Bobby Scott's leadership, will be marking up H.R. 3. Energy and Commerce, under Chairman Frank Pallone, will be marking up H.R. 3. And Mr. Ways and Means Committee, Chairman Neal will be having a hearing on the bill this week and marking it up next week. So we're really going down a path of passing legislation that will be transformative in the lives of the American people for what it will save them and what it will save the taxpayer as well. It might be interesting. Do you know that in the course of this past week or so, the Congressional Budget Office reported that H.R. 3 will save taxpayers $345 billion on the Medicare Part D piece alone, and that it will and the Office of the Actuary reported that drug negotiations and Medicare inflation rebates will save households $58 billion and private businesses $48 billion from between 2020 and 2029. So we're very, very proud of the savings that it will be for people in their individual lives, for businesses, and for the taxpayer. It's how we spend that money. Some of it will be used for reinvesting into benefits, making that Medicare a more substantial benefit. Some of it will be for innovation and research at the National Institutes of Health. Some will be for, as I said, about more benefits, whether it's dental, vision, hearing, whatever. With Medicare, I mentioned that, but there are other considerations as well. The committees, as they mark up the bill, will make those proposals. The amendment process on the floor will take us to another point, and what are the other ways that we may want to invest some of that money for the benefit of America's working families and for innovation and research. Earlier today, some of you were with us when we had the announcement of Chairman Bobby Scott's College Affordability Act, strong legislation to make higher education more affordable, expanding opportunity, improving access to quality education. This week, as all through the break and continuing this week, we've been working on the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. We hope to be on a path to yes. We're still waiting for assurances about enforceability in it, because you can have all the good provisions in the world, but if you can't enforce them, you're just having a conversation. And there's some of the same concerns we have about the U.S.-China relationship. Are they really going to honor any commitments that they make? Buying farm products, that's good, but what about the other considerations that hurt America's manufacturing base and the rest? So we'll see what that is. It seems to me it was a small bill. In terms of guns, again, as I said to some of you earlier, this is a bullet. I was in Florida it was all over the country, but when I was in Florida, I received this from Frederica Wilson, my colleague. Bracelets are made with bullets in the color orange, which is the color of gun violence protection. I told the president we're not going away until we get this background check bill passed. But it is just among the other for the people agenda legislation that we have. So legislate, investigate, Mr. Schiff, Mr. on some of that. I just want to say how proud I am of him and the members of the Intelligence Committee for being here over the break, for the valuable legislation investigations that they have done. And again, you'll hear from him momentarily. In terms of litigation, we have been very successful in the courts. Last Friday, we won 5 decisions in our favor in terms of Congress's authority under the Constitution. And today, another decision came down in our favor in relationship to emoluments. You probably have that information on your phones. But again, another recognition that our founders had very deep suspicion about foreigners interfering in our government and, as again, in our elections. And the Emoluments Clause was there, put there specifically for that purpose, to protect us from any influence of foreign governments. So the fact that we would be here in an inquiry that relates to the president asking a foreign government to help the president in his reelection by granting or withholding the timing of military assistance that had been voted on by the Congress is just has so many violations in it. It undermines our national security. We were sending that military assistance because of Ukraine needing that vis-a-vis Russia. All roads seem to lead to Putin with the president, though, isn't it so? And then when we talk about undermining the integrity of our elections, that's wrong. And when you're talking about violating the president's oath of office to protect, defend, and preserve the Constitution of the United States to the best of his ability, that's the presidential oath, to the best of his ability. Well, we go with that. In any event, the rulings were that we won last week were 3 of them against the president's hateful public charge rule from taking effect, a ruling against the president's sham national emergency declaration to build his wasteful border wall, a ruling in the Mazars case, which was led by Chairman Cummings, Oversight Committee, that reaffirms Congress's authority and responsibility to conduct oversight and consider legislation on behalf of the American people. And the court ruled the following in that case. Contrary to the president's arguments, the committee possesses authority under both the House rules and the Constitution to issue the subpoena, and Mazars must comply. So again, 5 victories on Friday, 1 today in terms of emoluments, but that just happened. We just had a meeting with our caucus to be brought up to date on where we are on our legislative agenda. As I mentioned, we're legislating, we're litigating, we're investigating, and leading that for us is our very distinguished chair of the Intelligence Committee, Mr. Schiff, who's just completed voting and will join us here. Speaker doesn't vote unless it's a tie, so I have that limit. Unless you have any questions about our legislative agenda.
Can you address the Turkey sanctions bill?
The which one?
You spoke to Senator Graham about a Turkey sanctions bill to return from the Syrian invasion. You had a statement with Leader Schumer saying it might...
Yeah, we spoke about some sanctions bills and also about having legislation, a joint resolution, House, Senate, bipartisan, to oppose the president's decision about Syria. Hopefully, we'll take some of that up this week, and Mr. Eliot Engel is leading the way for us under the Foreign Affairs Committee. I'm hopeful that I think Senator Graham kind of fell back a little bit. I don't know. His language got a little weaker. I don't know what happened with the White House, but hopefully he's still where he was in the conversation that we had, is that we would have a bipartisan bill to oppose the president's decision, terribly dangerous decision, and that we would have legislation with strong sanctions in it against Turkey. The president gave the green light to Turkey to go in and commit this humanitarian disaster onto the Kurds, making us an untrustworthy ally, and then had a wet noodle for his sanctions, which just were not up to the task. So that's where we are.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.